Hi, I'm Jerry reporting from the From Robotics Network, and with me here is Jerry, Rahel, and Michael from Team 4410 Arc Lane. They just won a qualifier here in Massachusetts and have a super unique fast intake into an also really fast indexer. They have a really innovative screen on the top of their robot, and it also hangs at the end. Learn more about this robot on this Behind the Ball.
This video on fun is brought to you by viewers like you and also in partnership with the following. Take on the DECODE season with Studica Robotics, featuring their FTC starter bot, new 6mm hex shaft and motor options, and updated bevel gears. FTC teams can receive a 25% discount and apply for grants at studica.com/robots. FRCTs has been trusted by over 250 First teams to save on custom shirts and team apparel. Founded by First alumni and offering a free 14-day turnaround with faster options available, you can save time and money for your team when you get a free quote by scanning the QR code or going to frcts.com.
Okay, so starting from the ground, let's talk about first how your balls go up through the intake and into the air.
Yep, so our intake is pretty simple. As you can see, this is 2 rows of surgical tubing up through a ramp into our indexer. We also have 2 wedges, one on each side, that allow us to funnel artifacts into the ramp pretty much from anywhere on the wall. And we also use rollers to decrease the pushing force we need to funnel them into the indexer.
Great, and so once the artifact rolls through the intake and into the indexer, I noticed you have a pretty unique indexer. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So our indexer design basically uses 3 axon servos and kickers to basically push the balls up through this little chamber up into the central hole where our shooter is. And so we have a little kind of mock-up of it here. It's like our little testing rig we had. With this is our most recent kind of iteration of this whole thing. And you can see here, right? You just put a ball here, and the servo turns, and it's able to kick it up into the the shooter hole here.
Cool, and I noticed that inside of the indexer you have a lot of color sensors. What do you use those color sensors for? Are they mainly for knowing sort of which color you have? Do they correspond at all to the sequence in which you fire them?
Yeah, so inside our indexer, we actually have 6 combined color and distance sensors. We have 2 for each ball, just to make sure, they're placed so that, if a sensor is over a hole, the other sensor will always cover the actual ball, so we'll always detect it. And the sensors we basically use for 2 main purposes. Number 1 is motif scoring, so sorting the colors, right? In autonomous, it's super useful. You need to get those motif points in order to get the ranking points, which will become even more important as the season progresses. But beyond that, it's also really useful for the drivers in teleop, because it kind of combines with this screen up here we have, where the data from the color sensors is used to basically show up here and communicate to the drivers kind of how many artifacts we're holding and what color they are. So as a driver, that's super useful just to know, instead of kind of guessing where they are, because we really can't see from outside of the robot.
And how does the screen work? Is that something you made custom, or is that more of a COTS part that you can buy?
Yeah, so this screen, you can buy this off of Amazon, and it's connected to a Adafruit NeoPixel driver, and then that just connects to the control hub through I2C. We originally tried using an I2C driver that another team built, and then we kind of modified it a little bit to kind of get it to work for us, because it was tweaking a little bit. But yes, the I2C driver is partially custom written, but these are all parts you can buy from Amazon for actually pretty cheap.
And talking more specifically about how your indexer works, we've seen a lot of spindexers throughout the season. Why did you specifically choose to go for this sort of scooper design?
Yeah, so with the traditional spindexer, not some of the passive ones we've seen, you have to rotate it as you intake. And while you can get it to be very fast, it is still an extra motion you have to do every time you intake a new ball. So it's fundamentally much more complex if you want to go and go into a pool of artifacts and just drive in and drive out, right? There's also much more moving parts there. There's risks of things jamming, and in general, just we felt that this type of free indexing mechanism, where the balls can roll around independently, would be just generally faster, because all the balls can just kind of intake at once, and then they'll get seated in the respective chambers, and then we can actually shoot these up fairly quickly, and we have plans in order to make this much faster shooting.
Do you want to give a quick demo on how fast you guys can shoot?
Yes. So it's decently fast right now, but we have a lot of things in order to make them faster, and we feel that we've kind of only scratched the surface of what this type of indexing method can do.
Great. So what are the things you're going to do in the future to potentially make it even faster?
So the first thing we have in mind is actually replacing these axons. So currently we have axon maxes on them. We're going to be replacing those with Swift speeds very soon, and so that'll increase our increase our shooting speed per se by I think 40%, just because the Swift speed servos are much faster. Another thing we want to change is modify the geometry of this, because the servos don't need much torque to push it up, and so we want to make it so that the servos only have to move a small amount to actually kick it up, because right now they effectively need to move nearly 100 degrees to push it up. So if we can change the arm length, change this little centerpiece geometry and the kicker geometry to get it to go up faster, that would also help us a lot.
Cool. And I noticed you guys have these slides here. So what are those used for? Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the slides are what we use for our lifting mechanism. So we have 2 pairs of 400 millimeter slides that allow us to lift a full 18 inches into the air. So any robot that we have as an alliance partner can go underneath us. And to hold us up in the air after we're done climbing, we have built a custom ratcheting gearbox. So it literally just is a ratchet wrench you can buy online, and we put it on a axle, and then that way it can only turn in one direction. So once we get to the top, it holds itself up even without robot power.
And do you guys use this every match, or is this something that you guys use in certain situations?
Yeah, so we ideally would use this every match, but because it's such a risky mechanism, other robots running into us, we only use it when we need to. So if we have a big lead, or if we don't need the ranking point, then there's no reason to run the climb. In that case, we just normally park.
Cool. And then what are you using to power the climb?
Yeah, we just use 2 axon servos, and they're geared 3-to-4 ratio to give it a little bit of extra torque.
Got it. Okay, so talking more a little bit about sort of the overall integration of the robot. You guys talk a lot about, it's a super fast and effective robot. What makes it specifically so fast? Your indexer is amazingly quick, but is there anything else you want to highlight in your shooter maybe that makes the robot super quick?
Yep, so within our shooter, as you can see, it's on a turret, which is powered by an 1150 RPM motor with a 10 to 114 gear ratio. But then talking about our shooter, one of the things that makes it a lot more efficient is we have lots of weights on this, which give it lots more of inertia. So that basically means when we're pushing a ball up to the shooter, it doesn't lose as much of its velocity. So we have rapid fire shooting, which is what you saw earlier. We're able to push balls into the shooter as fast as possible without losing flywheel velocity there.
Yeah, so with your shooter, would you say that this is one of the reasons why it's able to fire so fast? The shooter has to be able to compensate for the indexer's really quick speed. So I see the steel flywheels. Is there any other way you guys are compensating? Maybe it's through software for the speed drop in the shooter.
Yeah, so the software for this whole turret shooter thing, so the shooter runs on a technically a PDF loop, and so that's able to really it's in a very aggressive control loop, and it's able to kind of as soon as a flywheel velocity drops, it'll push full power to the shooter's motors to kind of get it back up to speed. Kind of along with that, we also have 2 motors powering it, 2 6,000 RPM motors. So that itself also gives it a lot more torque and acceleration when, if it slows down and we need to speed it right back up to get the next shot through. And then kind of overall, our turret and shooter is also, we have an auto aim system to actually use the turret to aim at the goal. And the way we do this is, we have odometry pods on our robot, and we basically visualize our robot kind of on a 2D plane. You plot the goal, and we're able to actually just very, very simply measure, the angle from our robot to the goal, right? Subtract it from our robot's heading, and then we get the angle that the turret needs to hit to go to the goal. And then kind of with that, we also have a velocity compensation algorithm where we're able to actually measure the robot's velocity as we move, and the shooter's actually able to basically move that point in 2D space, drift it over or shift it over according to our robot's velocity to kind of allow it to compensate. So you can see, when we move, it'll turn kind of extra in the opposite direction, and then when we stop, it'll turn back.
And I noticed you guys have this limelight up here in the front. Why did you choose to mount the limelight in the front and in the static position rather than on your shooter like we've seen a lot of teams this year do?
So originally we had started with our limelight on our shooter. We originally assumed that the odometry tracking would drift a lot over time. And so we had a limelight mounted right here until I think around mid-November. What we found was that just, with a camera, there's always some little bit of lag, motion blur. If a robot gets in the way, it's always problematic. So we switched our auto aim system to be odometry based. And at the time we had quite a bit of drift, over a match it would drift 4 to 5 inches. And so we added this limelight to basically allow us to relocalize using the April tags on the goal. Now, this was before we added indexing to our robot. So now with our indexer, we also use it to like detect the April tags from the obelisk at the very start of the match, so that we can automate that whole system of motif scoring and autonomous anti-yacht.
Okay, thank you to Team 4410 Arc Lightning for showing us their amazing robot. They just won a qualifier here in Massachusetts, and we can't wait to see what they do next.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay up to date on future fun videos. FRCTs has been trusted by over 250 first teams to save on custom shirts and team apparel. Founded by First alumni and offering a free 14-day turnaround with faster options available, you can save time and money for your team when you get a free quote by scanning the QR code or going to frcts.com. Take on the DECODE season with Studica Robotics, featuring their FTC starter bot, new 6mm hex shaft and motor options, and updated bevel gears. FTC teams can receive a 25% discount and apply for grants at studica.com/robots.